And then, all of a sudden, though I was awake and conscious, I entered into an ecstasy. I was in the midst of the most incredible silence, a silence that I can only call it a perfect silence. And I look up, and far in the distance, far away, I could see another mountain, even higher. And on top of the mountain, the peak of the mountain was covered with fog. And that fog began to fade away slowly. And the most amazing city of light appeared on top of that mountain. My soul knew that I had to have been there and didn't make it, and that troubled me much. So I looked around to see how I can get there, but I noticed that the two mountains were not connected, so that troubled me even more. And then, as I was dealing with this troublesome moment, I began to hear like the sound of big water approaching. I didn't see it, but I could hear it. Then that turned into like many voices, but then it turned into one voice, a voice that was coming from everywhere, everywhere. Even it seemed to come from inside me. And though I had been away from God for so many years, the moment I heard the voice, I knew instantaneously that it was God's voice. And I wanted to disappear. I wanted to disintegrate. I couldn't handle so much love. I just had my illumination of conscience, and I knew exactly the state of my soul. And my soul was in a terrifying state of sin. So now, pure, perfect love was talking to me. Uh, the Lord didn't let me sink in my misery. He held me there. He spoke to me at length. He spoke about humanity from beginning to end. He spoke about the people, the chosen people, the heroes, and how they prepared the incarnation of Jesus, all the battles they went through, all the molding, the preparation, all the lessons they had to learn, and this mystery of God's plan, the economy of salvation. And then he leads me into the incarnation of Jesus and the new creation, the new covenant. And then he comes up with the church and he says, with these exact words, the Catholic Church is my church. I enlisted you in my church since the womb of your mother, but you deserted it. But he never accused me. He never judged me. He was love, absolute love. I was the one judging myself. I was the one against me because I felt so much pain as he was describing my state of being and what I did with my life, and also the beauty of his plan, the beauty of his love and compassion towards me, towards humanity. And then he said that we are, as Catholics, Eucharistic instruments of reparation. And he said, he showed me the 33 years I didn't go to communion. I was away from the church. And how many souls he could have rescued with my communion. And there he begins to show me the sacraments. And he said, though the Catholic Church is his church, salvation is for all of humanity. He said, we as Catholics have been chosen to be responsible for the salvation of all of humanity. And he took me back to the sacrament of confession. And he said, Satan stole the Catholic faith from me when he stole the sacrament of confession from me. And then I came off the ecstasy. And I knew something really big had happened, but I didn't have it in my memory. I knew it was somewhere inside me. And they took me away from the cave the next day, and I spent 5.5 months more given up after my mystical experience. And all I was doing during that time was begging the Lord not to let me die without confession. I wasn't afraid of being killed anymore. I was afraid of being condemned. And that was my biggest biggest supplication to God during the whole kidnapping. 6 months to the date of my kidnapping, I was miraculously released one night. They just abandoned me on a road with no explanation. But I know till this day, those those guerrillas don't know why they let me go. Because that night was very supernatural. I knew something powerful was going on. God took me away from them. And obviously, God had a plan.
So, from my understanding, it was after this miracle that you experienced, that you dedicated your life to Jesus. How did your life look like, and how did it change immediately after your release?
As I was released from captivity, if as soon as I could, I went to confession to a Franciscan monastery. And that was the longest confession of my life, as you can probably imagine. And when the priest was lifting up his hand to give me absolution, I heard the most incredible noises way down. And I knew they were demons. And I knew they were really upset. And as soon as he finished absolving me, silence, total silence and peace. So I became so in love with the Catholic Church. I was in church every day and learning about it, reading the Catechism, reading the saints, and just so thirsty. And everything I was reading and the reading of the Mass every day, they were just confirming to me my mystical experience. So I was so delighted and so in love with the church. And then 2 years later, I had the great impulse to come back to Colombia. Everybody in California was telling me, "Are you mad? Why would you go back there where they hurt you so much?" But I felt I had to come back. And I came back and I went to, and that was a Holy Week. I didn't even plan it that way, but it ended up being a Holy Week. So I came before Palm Sunday, and on Palm Sunday I went to noon mass in a big church here in Bogota, and I didn't make it in. It was packed with people. I was outside in the atrium looking in towards the main door. And all I could see from the tops of the heads of people was a big crucifix that was hanging from the top of the altar. And I had another ecstasy with Jesus. But this time, Jesus didn't speak to me with a voice. He communicated with me exactly like the angel did, which is undescribable, but I understood everything. So he told me that my mission was just going to start, that I had been born for this mission, that I had been chosen, that he was going to take me all around the world, that every place I was going to go to, he had already chosen. Every person that was going to listen to me, he had already chosen by name, that he was going to take care of me. And I walked away from that church because that experience happened during the offertory of the Mass. But there was no time spent in our time. But my experience with Jesus was very long because he spoke to me about the whole mission with details. As I walked away from the church, I didn't know how could that be possible. So I remember the Franciscan priest where I went to confession here in Colombia as I came out of the kidnapping. And I went looking for him. I found him, and he was the one that enlightened me about everything. He taught me that I had infused knowledge, that the Holy Spirit was going to lead me and use that infused knowledge wherever I will speak. And and he said not to be afraid to walk away from everything I was doing and follow the Lord. And I left my artistic career and became a lay Catholic missionary. And I found a mission called the Pilgrims of Love, which is a name the Lord revealed to me. And I founded that mission with the Archdiocese of Bogota. And I have been traveling the world for 22 years. I have visited over 120 countries and all the continents. I have never promoted myself. And I do this all the time, every day, and I will do this until the Lord calls me.